Welcome to Short Game Long Talk, a video game podcast where we play short games and talk about them for a long time. My name is Eric, and I am joined by a very special guest, a man who puts out so much content that I listen to, and it takes up at least 12 hours of my life, like 2 times a year. And the king of Secaucus Junction, Stephen Hilger. Stephen Hilger from Into The Aether.
What an intro. That's very nice of you to say. And also, I'm sorry. I feel like there's a mixed emotional baggage with clogging up your phone with audio data.
As somebody who drives to California quite a bit, it is a blessing, honestly.
Good.
Yeah, it's a good thing, I promise.
Good.
I am always a fiend for more audio.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, if people are unaware of who you are, if you want to give a little bit of context of who you are and what you do.
Does the king of Secaucus not explain everything?
Yeah,
yeah, I co-host a video game podcast called Into The Aether with my friend Brendan, produced by AJ, who I think was also on the show recently.
For
AJ
10 Dead
Filari.
Doves. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've been doing that show for about 7 years now, which is wild.
Crazy.
And in my spare time, I also like to write and draw, and that's pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Outside of being king, of course.
Of course. Yeah. Your best-selling Secaucus Junction t-shirt. Store.
It is funny how like we were the first party to make merch about a train stop, not the actual city or train stop.
You would
itself.
think.
Yeah.
It's such a fun word to say. So it is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But to focus back on track, we played we had discussions for a while on what we were going to play. Mm-hmm. And we had 3 ideas, I think. It was originally between One Shot and Attack of the Friday Monsters, and I didn't trust the ROM I found of Attack of the Friday Monsters. And One Shot you wanted to take your time with, which if you ever finish that and you don't do a bonus for your show, feel free to come back because it's always been on my been on my watch list. But then you're like, let's play Rez, and I was like, fucking perfect. Like this game that's an hour and a half long and it's just a vibe. Like, I was so excited. So we played Rez. I played the original, the original version. I didn't touch any of the bonuses, but I did play it on the PS5 with Rez Infinite, which was an experience. When you played it for the first time, have you played multiple renditions of this game, or is it only the original Dreamcast?
No, I played multiple versions. Actually, the first time I ever played it was on PS2. Which I know you want to talk a bit about the development of this game, and recalling our Dreamcast episode that we did a whole retrospective about the Dreamcast, and this game came up. And one of the most tragic things about the Dreamcast is that some of the best Dreamcast games came out on other consoles because they were it was 99 to 2001, and by 2001 they Sega kind of realized that it was a sinking ship. So Shenmue 2 came out on Xbox. Rez was ported elsewhere. Sonic Adventure 2 famously got the battle version on GameCube. So Rez I played first on PS2, and my friend had it and was just like, I need to show you this. It was one of those games where a friend is like, hey, I have a cursed item to show you.
It does feel like it.
It does feel like it's not scary. It just feels like it's from another reality.
Yeah.
But I played it on PS2 in high school, and then I think it came out again on Xbox Live Arcade, in that era.
On the 360, yeah.
So I played it again, the first time on PS2 was a foggy dream, and then I was like, was this game actually good? Because it stuck with me. Played it again in college, and then really loved it. And basically had that opinion cemented within my mind and soul. And then when we decided to do a Dreamcast episode, I went back and played it on the Dreamcast. And then for this episode, I replayed it on the PS5. So I guess I might have played every version of it.
Apparently there's one on there's a PS4 version, there's an Android version, which
shit, I knew there was one.
And then an Oculus Quest, which is basically just the PS5 in VR.
But it's an amazing game, and what's amazing about it is that even on the Dreamcast, there's not. It looks about the same. It's definitely smoother on modern consoles, but it has aged remarkably well. I mean, it's kind of like a minimalist reboot meets sort of a psychedelic dream. It's hard to describe the visuals of it. But
if you go to the wiki, there's a page, a picture from the Dreamcast, and I'm like, that just looks like what I played, just in a different aspect ratio with a little less polish. It looks crazy, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you were saying like replaying it and being like, was this game good? Because the first time I went through, I was like, I had fun. I know I had fun, but I don't know if this was good. And then I replayed a couple more levels and like showed my wife, and I was like, nah, this game rips. This is a good game.
I do think there's something about having it be a communal experience.
Yeah.
Like, I did forget to mention this is funny, but when I first played it on PS2, I might have even just watched my friend play it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a group of mutual friends called that friend and said, "Hey, can we come over? We're all coming down from shrooms."
Oh, whoa, my God.
And so like that's not what, not that it matters, but like my friend and I were having like a normal day out.
Yeah.
And then this group of mutual friends was like, "Can we come over and like vibe?" And it was like maybe the best and worst time to see Rez. But like I got to see all of them watch Rez, and it felt like they all saw like an answer to some unknown truth. They discovered something about reality.
If the fear is the mind killer song came on,
yes,
like I would imagine they would be losing their mind.
I think thankfully it was a more innocuous level.
Okay.
But yeah, if because the fifth level of this game goes through the evolution of life.
Yep. With an atomic bomb annihilating all of humanity. Yeah.
Just like the fact that the enemies explode sometimes into like Egyptian hieroglyphics or Mayan symbols,
or like or a lion.
Yeah. I guess to kind of briefly explain for people who don't know, the game is a rail shooter. So you play as this like humanoid figure floating in space. The plot is very loose. You wouldn't even know there's a plot if you didn't have the box or check Wikipedia. But essentially, you're like a hacker trying to revive this AI that is shutting itself down. And even that is kind of it's more like driven by the visuals and the music and everything. So there are 5 levels and you're on the rails, and when you like hover an enemy and then let go, it will kind of shoot like a missile at the enemy. And you can also find items that will upgrade your form, which increases your health. And the forms range from like a humanoid floating to someone meditating in a sphere to like a Stanley Kubrick space baby. Yeah, exactly.
the baby one. I was like, because I didn't clock that I was like evolving at first, because like it's kind of hard to pay attention to your character.
There's so much happening.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden I was like, what the fuck? Am I a baby? What happened?
And every time you shoot a missile, it goes like, oh, like it has like a choir going like, oh. But yeah, like when the whole like design philosophy of the game is like everything you do kind of adds to the music. So even if you just like aim your cursor, it does like a beat of the drum. And then like depending on your form, it will also like add to the music when you destroy an enemy. But it doesn't even like often it almost very rarely feels like you are like shooting enemies. It almost just feels like you're kind of like connecting to this world.
Yeah.
And that's the best way I can describe it for now. I think we'll probably get more into like the specific visuals and level design, but like it's a very simple game that it's like minimalist in design, but maximalist in its like visuals and music.
100%. Yeah, I was gonna say the way I played the first level was like, okay, take my time, hold down the button, lock on to 8 things, because you have a max of 8 things you can lock onto, and then they all fire. And the game does this fucking trick, basically, that no matter when you let go, the missiles basically will not hit until it syncs up with a beat, which is like crazy. And it doesn't matter when you do it. And I was like, oh my God, that's insane. And I was like, they did this on the Dreamcast? Like, that's what I just kept thinking. I was like, I know this game is unchanged, basically. And I'm like, how the fuck did they do this on the Dreamcast? Like, I know it was a late game Dreamcast game, but still. But then on the second level was when I hit my like first wall, and kind of honestly the only wall, was because this game does a very interesting thing that I found out was if you do well in the level, the boss is harder. And I was like, oh, interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so if you miss a lot of shots, the boss at the end of at least the first 4 stages is easier. And so I was like, because I was hitting a wall on the second stage, because it was this weird like thing that was just shooting so many things at me. I was like, how am I supposed to do this? So I just started mashing. That X button. And that got me through most of the game, to be honest. And what's crazy is it still sounds like songs. Like it still sounded like, even though I was mashing the hell out of it, like I was playing like Mario Party or something, it was still like syncing up. And I was like, this is crazy that they're able to do this.
It always feels like you're uniquely adding your own tempo to the music.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack is, I mean, this is a game that I always end up replaying like every year or so. And it's so nice to have a game that kind of like continuously inspires you in a very like, and it's a very easy experience. It's not I wouldn't say it's an easy game necessarily. I mean, yeah, again, it's like you might trip up against one or two of the bosses, but like the whole thing will be like 2 hours max. So it's the kind of game I go back to whenever I need to like remind myself why I like video games, basically. It just sort of feels like a very pure experience.
It feels like one of those games where it's like, yeah, this is like an early version of like our game's art. And you're like, yes, Res is art. This is art. It is a trip and a half. It feels like fucking Lawnmower Man, like come to life. And like my experience playing this game was, I was like, okay, my wife is going, she has a book club thing. I'm going to turn off all the lights in the house, put my like TV super loud on my like big, because normally I just play at my office and like on my my gaming monitor, but I was like, nah, this is big screen time. And like my dogs were having they might have been tripping just from the lights. Like
did they like it or no?
They loved it. Yeah. Like they eventually fell asleep and I was like, you guys are crazy. They're just like, we're both
the soothing sounds of fear is the mind killer.
Yeah. They're just like, no, this is it. I like this. And I was like, all right. But this, like the lights, I was like, I wish I could have a visual of like my neighbors behind me, like seeing my house like light up through the curtains, like just all the crazy colors and stuff. But it like, yeah, it's legit like super fun, and going back and playing the levels honestly makes it better. Like I think the first time through, I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty neat. But then it was the levels that I had to repeat a couple times that I was like, oh, okay, no, this is like, you can fully get into a flow state with this and just waste a day, like score chasing this kind of game. And I'm like, this is crazy.
You said something like this game, this might have been when we were not recording, but you said this game kind of feels like the essence of the Dreamcast, like in one game. And it has that like arcadey score chase vibe to it. And like there are secret levels you can unlock. I think there might be multiple endings. I forgot that like when I beat this game, after the credits, it said like she's still stuck in the program. And I was like, I guess it didn't score high enough to get the like true ending.
Probably like 100% completion kind of thing. And I thought one of the things that like blew me away was like I was steamrolling through the final level, and I was like, okay, because you gave me a warning that the final level is a bit of a doozy, and it is, because it's a test of endurance, honestly. Like it's
very long.
basically a boss rush, like a mini boss rush. They're not the full bosses, but you at the end when you're fighting the thing, I like almost beat it with like 15% health left, and I was like, damn, all right. And then the game ends and credits roll, and I was like, oh shit, that's an ending. That's crazy that they did that in 1990 or 2001 or whatever. I was like, can you I was like, I can't, my brain didn't go online for things like that until like late high school, where I was like, oh yeah, things can just have a very like a bad ending like that. And I was like, if I was a kid and I lost and the credits rolled and I was like, I guess that's just the game. I mean, that's so crazy to do that back in 2001.
Yeah, I think this is, I mean, the Dreamcast overall, I think, was like tragically ahead of its time in a way that like, you know, so many of those games feel like they should have come out 10 or 20 years later. Like I mentioned that I played this on Xbox Live, and yeah, this feels more akin to like the Flower Journey era of like PS3 than even the Dreamcast in terms of what it's doing visually. And I mean, there isn't really a story in a concrete sense, but I do consider a lot of this narrative design, which is why I wanted to talk about it. Cause like, you know, in terms of short games that say a lot, I think this game is very confident, and it's like much like listening to music. Like we all have our own kind of emotional attachment to a song, and like there are songs that will take us back to a very specific place in our lives. I feel like Res lets you do that, but as a game, like it lets you not only uniquely add your own involvement to the music when you're just shooting enemies down. But also like the fact that it's a game that's short enough you will replay it. It does sort of like have its own kind of nostalgic beckoning. Like you will
Yeah.
go back to Res, and like playing through Res will kind of feel like listening to an album. And I think everyone's emotional connection to the game will vary. Cause yeah, the only real like, oh, this is getting like visibly narrative is the last level where we
Yeah.
mentioned before, like it goes, there's an ominous narrator to I think the best song in the game, which is Fear the Mind Killer, or
Hmm.
Fear is the Mind Killer. And it's this, it goes through the evolution of life on Earth and then ends like with this idea that eventually we'll kind of ascend beyond this
Hmm.
reality. But then it pivots to like the AI you're trying to rescue asking you, it's a
Yeah.
little bit like at first when it's like, why? I was like, okay,
Yeah.
come on, guys. But
Yeah.
it works because like you're so in that headspace by playing it. And I
Yeah.
think the fact that the final boss is like slowly restoring this
Hmm.
figure into a human being, and like you kind of, they're not telling you what's happening, but you kind of get the sense like, oh, first it's her mind, and then it's her
Hmm.
body, and then she has arms, and there's like different colors and music playing to like illustrate like sort of the miracle of like the dawn of life, and then sort of the
Right.
horror of being alive, and then like the joy of loving things around you.
Yeah.
um I just think it's like very few games other than maybe like Eco and Shadow of the Colossus. Those are the only other games that come to mind where I think of like the confidence required to leave a lot of this stuff open to the player. Like just being
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're just gonna like show you a visual that means something to us, and then we'll allow the players to all have their own meaning for that.
Yeah. And like just talking about that final segment leading up to it with like the boss rushes and stuff. And yeah, like the AI asking why and then eventually being like rescue me and stuff.
Yeah.
But like on top of that, you have like the trick of being like the thing that says why turns into the boss because each individual thing is a part of the boss. And I was like,
Mm,
dude,
that's
I just
sick.
kept thinking back as like I was 7 when I got my first Dreamcast. And I'm
Yeah.
like, if I like, I'm like, how did they do this? Like, that it's just a trick over and over again. Because I'm like, yeah, the game's not high fidelity, but it looks good still in the Dreamcast era. And I'm like, I don't know how they did this, and it just makes me sad on top of everything else. Because I'm like, yeah, the Dreamcast was so ahead of its time, and like if it would have stuck out, like I would have been playing Persona when I was like 10 and not fucking 27. You know, like
Yeah.
it's crazy the amount of like things that they were just so ahead of their time on. And like I mentioned when I was playing it, I messaged you and I was like, this game is giving me nostalgia for something I've like never played, because this game just feels like
Yeah.
this is the Dreamcast being like, this is the embodiment of it. Because I was listening to the soundtrack this morning to kind of, that's another thing is fun, you can listen to the soundtrack and kind of just relive the game, because
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
exactly like you don't have to play the game. So if you want to relive the game and you're like, oh, I just want to relive it, and I have a car ride, it's like a 45-minute thing. Like you can listen to the whole thing. And there's a bit, I think it's probably in the second level, I think, but like it just sounds like Jet Set Radio. And then there's another thing
Mm.
that I was like, oh, I can hear the persona like in of this. Like it's like Sega's just always had that
Yeah,
vibe where
they're
you're like, this
tied to
is Sega
music.
music. Yeah.
I mean, the music's important in all games. There's a lot of great
Hmm.
Nintendo stuff too. But yeah, I think specifically like on the Dreamcast and in a lot of the games, like music is the driving force behind a game like Res or Space Channel 5
Yeah.
or Jet Set Radio. Like Jet Set Radio is the reason we talk about that game is because of the art and the music.
Yep. That's it.
I
Not a
wish
good
the
game.
game was better. Yeah, it
I
is.
love it so much,
Me
and
too.
I want it. I want the new one to be so good,
Yeah.
but it's just the music and the vibes. Like you just
Yeah.
want to be in that world. Like yeah,
I think it
it's
was Chris Plant who said we recorded with him like
mhm,
to kind of go through the history of the Dreamcast, because it was actually the
right.
first time Brendan, my co-host, and I had ever played one really.
Hmm.
Well, I had played one like at a friend's house. Like it was sort of this like,
Like a myth.
yeah, it was very mythical. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh
was that kid. I was the only
yeah.
person. I still am the only person I've ever met that has a Dreamcast, that had a Dreamcast growing up.
I had a
And
friend who was like my first, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to
no,
cut you
no,
off.
you're good. It's just like I was just like kids had N64s or PlayStations, and I was like, "Yo, I have a Dreamcast," and they're like, the hell is that? And then they play it and they'd be like, this is insane. I'd be like, yo, let me show you Power Stone. Like, let me show you
Yeah.
these games. And then they'd be like, yo, this is crazy. And it's just like so ahead of its time. And then it's just gone. Like,
It
there's
was
nothing
interesting.
left.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about the legacy of the console because like it came out right before I think what the PS2 and GameCube came out. So it was
Yes.
meant as a competitor to Sony really because like that was
Mhm.
when Sony entered the space and was just like like I didn't know until we did the GameCube episode how dominant Sony was in terms of just
Yeah, it was
console
scary.
sales. Yeah, like I kind of always thought as a kid, like, oh yeah, GameCube, Xbox, PS2, like
Hmm.
they're all kind of even, right? And it's like, no, it's like it's everyone against Sony. I think it
If
was, yeah,
Halo did not exist, the Xbox would have been worse than the Dreamcast, like as a story.
potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
They had the money to back it, but I think they wouldn't have there wouldn't have been a point to it, like,
but that's what's
without Halo.
interesting is like a lot, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the games get ported elsewhere. You can kind of
Mhm.
see it's as if the Dreamcast was this big bang, and like
Mhm.
pieces of it went to like you have a game like Monkey Ball and Sonic 2 on GameCube, which
Yep.
feels like this would have been on the Dreamcast.
Yep.
Uh, and then you have Shenmue 2 on Xbox, and not to mention Jet Set Radio Future as well.
Yeah, which is a
Dead or Alive
incredible.
3.
Yep.
And then yeah, PS2 gets a few. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where one, in today's video game world where it takes 5 years on average for a AAA game to be made, it is
Mhm.
wild to think about people still talking about a failed piece of hardware that was around for 3 years, 2.5, if we're being
And it
honest.
was never the industry leader once.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
it was basically like Sega was on its deathbed basically,
Yeah,
and they basically like, well, we already have this thing, and they put it out because I've never seen like tech period. I feel like get the plug pulled on it as fast as a Dreamcast. Like looking back, it's like usually stuff like sticks around for like 5 years. Like
yeah.
even if it sucks, like we had those stupid curved TVs and 3D TVs, and those hung around forever. And it's like now the Dreamcast was just like, yep, we're producing them for this amount of time, and now you can buy them for $50. Like, okay, okay, cool. Like this was new like 3 years ago. Like, and you can buy it. They're just everywhere, and it's crazy to think about. And I feel like now, you know, it's that's why the what was it? What was that game? What was the game last summer or whatever that released and was pulled like 2 weeks later by
Oh,
uh,
it wasn't Discord, but it sounds Concord.
Concord? Yeah,
Concord. I always
yeah.
think it's Discord. Yeah,
Yeah.
Concord. Yeah.
So Concord got pulled in like 2 weeks, and it's like that's insane that that happened, right? And it's like
Right.
now imagine something like that happening with a console, and it's like that's it's just unheard of that it happened. And yeah, like you said, I think saying the Dreamcast was like a big bang is like such a perfect way of putting it because yeah, it just kind of spread. It spread. It was like the epicenter of like creativity and stuff, and just spread throughout. And so you can find these little pieces, and luckily a lot of the stuff still lived on. Like you know, most of it is still available to play, and when people play it, they're like, "Yo, this is great!" Like the
And
new
there's
Power.
something too, like, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I want to say the actual hardware is really fun to play as well. Like
Hmm.
the experience of having a VMU, like
Oh my god, yeah.
in Soul Calibur, like your character will appear like in sort of like an 8-bit version of themselves on the VMU. And
Hmm.
then in Virtual Tennis, the
Oh, Virtual
actual
Tennis is
match you're
so
playing,
good.
it's so good.
It's so
The
good.
the match you're having, I'm like swinging my arm as if I know how to play
Yeah.
tennis. On the VMU, you can see like the match, but in like a very, like
Yeah.
minimalist Tamagotchi way.
And it's
I
completely pointless. Like
Yeah, right.
it was just there,
Just there for
because you're
fun.
focusing at the TV. Like you're not looking at your VMU, but it was just
But
there to be fun. That was it.
But yeah, that's what I think makes the Dreamcast special. It's not, I mean, there's a bit of nostalgia, but I think
Hmm.
it's an era where because Sony was in Hail Mary mode, they were giving a lot of people a lot of money to make their dreams come true. Like
Hmm.
it was this period, it was sort of like a what Sony ended up doing with the PS1 where they were like, yeah, we're entering the space late. We're gonna like give money to teams to make games like Parappa the Rapper and like
Hmm.
all these, there's such a wide range of genre and such an experimental like
That's so many games too.
yeah. So I just think like the eras of art, not that it's all about the business side of it, but I do think broadly speaking, when we look at eras of games that we fondly remember, it's when the parties at B like actually give developers like the proper time and resources to make
Yep.
their games. Now, you have Shenmue as well, which is
Yeah.
I think like the danger in maybe investing too much in a new
Right.
idea. Because as much as it's easy to say like, yeah, invest in cool, crazy shit, it's like, okay, sometimes that is Shenmue, which I love, but like
Mhm.
did not return, it did not make its money back.
Yeah,
Uh
sometimes people need a little bit of a leash, like with their creativity, and that Shenmue is a good example of like this was cool, and it set up a lot of things that are
yes.
like now, it showed us how a game can be like a social sim and a fighting game at the same time. Like,
Yeah, I mean
you,
we wouldn't
it's
have
perfect.
Yakuza or Like a Dragon without Shenmue.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think with Rez, like this team, like they've changed. I don't know like exactly how many people on this team went on to like Tetsuya Mizuguchi is like
Hmm.
the producer of Rez and is largely like the guy I think of behind this game and games like it, where
Yeah,
he
his
went
his
on.
run his run is crazy. Like
Yeah,
he had
he's amazing.
Rez, then in 2002, like a year later was Space Channel 5 Part 2. Then 2 years later was Lumens, and then Lumens Live,
Oh,
Lumens 2, like as a producer, which is like crazy to be attached to that many things.
you mean Luminous?
Oh,
Um,
Luminous. There. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
realize until after we recorded the PSP episode that he was also, like, somehow involved in Luminous because we were like, "It's so, like, Rez." Like, yeah, of course
Yeah.
it is.
And then and then apparently again, I think a game you guys talked about on your show is Humanity. He was an executive producer for in 2000
Yeah.
or
Yeah, so
2023.
I feel like this like, the spirit of and Tetris Effect as well
Tetris
at some
Effect is
point, which is
nuts. Yeah.
amazing. That's I think
Yeah.
the closest, I've come to, like, liking a game of theirs as much as Rez.
Hmm.
But, I mean, yeah, all those games are kind of a similar design philosophy where it's about getting in that flow state and, like,
Right.
sort of very simple gameplay with like very kind of beautifully hypnotizing music and sound and
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's interesting for me to have such an affinity for Rez and for games like it because I usually am drawn to like RPGs and like character driven stuff
Hmm.
and this is like none of that is here.
Yeah.
It's so like the narrative is like only there if you really want it to be basically.
It's
But I think
basically
that's
an
cool.
arcade game. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I can imagine this being a sick arcade game too. Like
Oh,
this
yeah.
would be incredible to just have because they've had VR helmets in arcades for years, and like being able to just be like pop it on and play Res in like a full that would be nuts. Like that would Dave and
I would
Buster's needs
love
to
to
get on
play
that.
Rez. Yeah, I would love to play Rez on the Jersey Shore boardwalk. That'd be amazing. Next to
Exactly.
Time Crisis.
Yeah. Oh God, Time Crisis. Talk about another
So
game.
good.
I used to work at a pizza place,
Uh-huh.
and on my lunch break, I would just like grab like a fistful of quarters from the cash register and just bust out Time Crisis 4. Like this game rips.
Yeah.
So chunky. Oh God, I miss that game
That
so much.
that might have been in a weird way my main connection to the Dreamcast because there was such a like it was like a home console arcade machine
Hmm.
basically. Because like my dad and I growing up, like all year we would save up all our quarters so that when
Oh,
summer
nice.
came around, we would go to the boardwalk arcades
That's
and
awesome.
play House of the Dead 2, Time Crisis, the Simpsons game, all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
And they're
classics.
all still there. Like, my dad was like, "I wonder if those games are still there." I'm like, "They haven't really updated or cleaned it since we went, so I'm
That's
sure
so funny.
we can go
Yeah.
play House of the Dead 2 if we want."
Oh man. Yeah, there's a Sega sale happening right now on Steam, so you can probably get House of the Dead and then weird light gun setup. Do that
It
at home too.
I mean, it is worth noting too, though, that, like, Sega, around the Dreamcast era pivoted to just being a publisher, but it's,
Yeah.
like, kind of amazing how I mean, they were big then, but, like, I feel like Sega's really in this, like, new golden age now with, like,
Hmm.
the Persona series and Like a Dragon,
Yeah.
SMT. It is wild how big those series have become because,
It's
again, it's like
yeah.
that would be niche in any other timeline. It's very cool
Yeah.
to see.
I think one of the saddest things I realized is that, like, listening to your guys' PSP episode, we're just gonna
Yeah.
might just pivot into talking about Sega, which is fine because like
Hey, I'm down.
there's not much else to talk about with Res. Like Res is a great game, go play it.
We can do an acapella cover of the songs if you want.
Yeah, yeah, that'll do it. I have no
Fear.
that's the that's the other thing is I was gonna say before pivoting to just kind of talk about Sega is like Res is technically a rhythm game, but you don't need rhythm because I don't have rhythm. So, and I had a pretty good time playing the game, which is good because that's always whenever I hear, oh, it's a rhythm game, I'm like, well, can't play this. But this one is definitely you can play it. But talking about like Sega, I was listening to your guys' PSP episode, and I was just getting so bummed because I had a PSP, but I was like so not like I think the one game you guys talked about that I had was Battlefield or Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I was this close, like so close, an inch away from being if I would have just bought Persona 3 portable, like maybe I would have been playing these games for decades instead of just the last like 5 years,
I mean, art finds you when it does. I didn't get into
Mm-hmm.
Persona. I mean, I saw, I think I said this on the show, but I saw my friend's cousin playing Persona 3 Portable on PSP, and I was like, what the fuck is this? It was like
Yeah.
it was in the middle of like a boss fight near the end, and I had no context for the series.
Yeah.
And I asked him what it was, and he said it's a dating sim. And I was like, "What is this game where like
Yep.
you shoot yourself in the head and fight a guy who looks like Jesus?"
It's
And it's
just
a dating sim.
it's just so funny because like fast forward a couple years and I'm playing Mass Effect and I'm like, oh, I love all the relationship stuff in this.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I'm like, oh, I love dating sims. And I'm like, it's just always been there. Like
The
Fallout
Mass
quests,
Effect,
Mass
yes,
Effects, like it's all been there. And now
Mass
all of a
Effect
sudden I don't have to
to
deal with the jank. It's just like, it's usually pretty just seamless kind of thing instead of being like, oh yeah, do this weird quest. And then you get like a cardboard cutout of a person that you have a relationship with, right? Like now it's like, oh no, you've spent like 30 hours with these characters at minimum. Obviously with Persona, it's like 90 plus hours. And like that, I think you guys touched on it too, is like when you finish those games, I'm like, fuck, I don't want to finish this game. I have to say bye to
there's
my
a
friends.
void. There's a
Like
void,
my
and
friends are
they
gone
they make you like go around town and say goodbye to
Yep.
everyone. There's a
Every
line
time.
Kanji has at the end of it's not a spoiler, but like when you're
Mhm.
saying goodbye to everyone in 4, Kanji just says like when you leave, don't look back. And it just like
Mhm.
really hit me in the gut.
Yeah.
He said that in a way that was not like a threat, but it was just sort of like don't make this harder than it has to be.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you mentioning Mass Effect, like Mass Effect that's a whole other episode, but
Mhm.
that was the game that I kind of gave me a point of reference for what Persona was. So I
Mhm.
played 5 first, like a lot of people, and loved it. And like, yeah, it's
You
just so
didn't just
funny.
love it based off of your stories. You binged it in two
Yeah,
weeks, which is like so unhealthy.
yeah,
Like
it's scary. I remember
it took
being
me
up.
3.5 months.
I remember being up until like 6 a.m. like before work playing that game.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But yeah, it's just so funny to recall that memory of seeing my friend's cousin playing it. And it's like that game that you
Mhm.
just thought like, what is this? Would eventually become like half of your personality somehow.
And
Um
like that a character from that series will be in Smash Brothers, and like
Yeah.
that's fucked, man. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy because it is you mentioned Sega being in like a golden era. And it's like, yeah, it does feel like that. It's like them and Capcom have just they haven't
yeah.
missed really. Like Capcom had that weird dinosaur shooting game, but like
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
yeah,
And it does seem like
everybody did.
Wilds is like kind of losing steam a bit, but it's
Hmm.
by no means like a Resident Evil 6 scenario
Yeah.
where like that series is in good shape and
Yeah,
people are still
Wilds is
interested in it.
fun still, right? It's just
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I think there's just so many other options. I think that's the problem. But like all their single player stuff is just like Sega has been coming out like when Sega's attached to something now, I'm like so excited. Like what's funny is the one thing that they still kind of miss on is Sonic. Um at least the single player ones. Because I've heard great things about the new Sonic racing game. And
Oh,
it
yeah, I'm
is just
excited
so
for that.
yeah, it's just so interesting to be like, yeah, this they pivoted and they've like rise from the ashes kind of thing, and like now they're making better games than and they're pumping out games. That's the other thing. Like Nintendo is like, they get their stamp of approval. They do all this stuff. They have that weird fucking wheelchair game that just came out that I think is a miss, but it's like they don't pump out games as much, and sometimes you just kind of forget about them. And but with Sega, they were like, we're no longer doing consoles, but we're going to pump out game after game after game. And now they're hitting their stride, and they're like, these are our franchises. And now on top of that, we have right around the corner is the remakes of like or the new games from Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Virtua Tennis, Virtua Fighter, like all, I don't know, Virtua Tennis, I don't know why I said that, but Virtua Fighter, like they're doing all these new games that are going to just be like a huge deal.
Yeah, I'm curious about those. The one that I'm excited for in that lineup is Virtua Fighter, because I think that's being developed by RGG, who are the team behind Like a Dragon. And it was funny when you were saying they pump out games. I'm like, well, half of those are Like a Dragon. Like
That's true.
every year, there's like 5
I don't know
to
how
6.
they do that. That's
well,
crazy.
I mean, I think that series is really fascinating because like they have kind of stuck to like a PS. I don't say this as an insult, but I feel like outside of maybe some of the like sort of more kind of cinematic cutscenes, those
Right.
games have kind of stuck to a similar like graphical style. They all kind of look like end of PS3, early PS4 looking, and they also scale like the locations where it's like you're in that same city for the bulk of the time.
And
So
I
like,
think that stuff is smart, right? It's the same
yeah,
reason that FromSoft can pump out so many games that are of high quality because like they're like, yeah, the tree that you fight in Elden Ring is the like demon that you fought in Demon Souls, just with a different skin, and it's the same model that they've been using for decades. Like,
yeah, I think
it's
finding
good.
creative shortcuts in game
Hmm.
development is kind of crucial, especially as it balloons in,
Yeah.
time and money. And I mean that going back to Rez, that's what I think makes Rez and a lot of Dreamcast games so timeless in their aesthetic is like,
Hmm.
yeah, it was. I mean, at the time, I think comparing it to PS1 and N64, I think it's definitely more powerful than N64.
Yeah.
I don't know about PS1, but like, I mean, a game like Skies of Arcadia looks great still. And I think it's like an art style people would seek to emulate now. Like, I've seen a lot
Yeah.
of games like purposely try to be like Ocarina of Time looking Zelda. And like,
Hmm.
in my opinion, Skies of Arcadia is like, it looks like a fan glow up of Ocarina era
Yeah.
Zelda, where like
I th-
the
I've
characters are
been
more
saying that for
expressive.
a
Yeah.
long time. Like, yes, Last of Us is a good game. Do I care that people look like that in that game? Like how good they look? No, I don't care anymore. Like I've
It's
stopped
diminishing
caring.
returns eventually. I
Hmm.
mean, I think this conversation you end up having to like having lightly Googled like what kind of TV should I get? I've
Hmm.
seen people online who will like yell at you on Reddit if you're not spending like $20,000 on a
Right.
TV because like everything else is garbage and like
Hmm.
I look, there's nothing wrong with like wanting if you have the money for it, go for it.
Right.
Like get the best possible display. But at a certain point, it's diminishing returns. And yeah, it's like playing a game like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Like
Hmm.
seeing the world reflected in Ratchet's eyeball is
Yeah.
like cool, but like that I'm sure that alone added like 6 months to the development time. And like
Exactly.
it
Like.
was like it's this art style already works, it doesn't
Hmm.
need to be once you get into and again, it's like the data behind like when Sony did that, most players prefer performance
Hmm.
mode over, visual mode or whatever it's
Yeah.
called. I think at this point, the next like sort of marketing point on a console is like everything runs at 60 frames per second. That's
Right.
what people care more about than if like the reflections in the water are like picture
Exactly.
real life
Like
accurate. Yeah.
it's the Sonic meme of like I want shorter games with worse
Yeah.
graphics and people
God.
getting paid. Like
I hope
it's
whoever
so
made
true.
that I hope whoever made that meme gets paid every time someone talks about it because it
Seriously.
is so it
It's the
is
best.
it's so concisely perfect for where we are right now.
It really
Um
is. It's like I don't want to be playing like I every once in a while, once or twice a year, I'll play like a monstrous game, right?
yeah.
But I just want to play these like 20 hours or less experiences. Like right now, I'm streaming Another Crab's Treasure, and it's like I was like, oh, this is such a breath of fresh air. It's just like colorful and cute, and like has a little bit of challenge to it. And I know I'll be done in 20 hours. Like this is great.
You know what it
Like,
is? I feel like what we're praising about the Dreamcast era is like you can find that now in the indie scene where it's
hmm,
like, and it's tough because it's so hard to stand out.
yeah,
Discoverability is such an issue, but I do think it's really amazing that like it's just wild that some of the most powerful game engines out there are free to download.
yeah,
like you can, get Unreal Engine or Unity or Godot and not
hmm,
pay anything and make a game in it. It's pretty amazing.
yeah. And it's been brought up on your show, my show, couple other shows that I listen to of just like the people that were playing N64, PlayStation, and Dreamcast are now game devs, and
Yeah.
they're like,
Yes.
that's why the now new nostalgia look is like the polygonal look of like, you know, like a game like Crow Country or 10 Dead Doves. Like they look like old, and it's like so cool to be able to be like, oh man, yeah, this is the new. I don't know how long it'll last because it's not as appealing as beautiful pixel art from like, you know, the
That's the
early
funny thing.
90s.
Like, I feel like there was a time in the early 2010s, you know, with like the Scott Pilgrim game, and it
Hmm.
was like Super Nintendo and NES were the nostalgic consoles at
Exactly.
that time. But yeah, we've had so many pixel art games that now it's just like an established look. Like no one
Hmm.
plays Animal well and says it looks like Super Nintendo. It just looks
Hmm.
like pixel art. And
Yeah.
I wonder if eventually there will be enough of these like low res polygonal games that there's like
Yeah.
a specific word that is separate from the consoles they're evoking.
Because yeah, chunky. That
There you go. You found it
yeah.
in one. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like yeah, looking at like Crow Country, I don't know if you've seen that one, but
Oh
like
yeah, I
yeah,
love Crow Country. It's great.
yeah. I haven't played that one yet, but my buddy was streaming it. I was like, yeah, God, I love the vibe of this. Like it
I
looks
mean,
so good.
it's very FF7. Like
Hmm.
the character kind of has like an FF7 character model, and
Yep.
but the whole game kind of feels like early Resident Evil as well.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I just got a copy of Parasite Eve, which is
Oh,
essentially
nice.
exactly that. It's what if FF7 was Resident Evil?
Yeah.
Which is like if I knew that existed, that's my version of what you were saying. Where like if you played Persona 3 Portable as a kid, like if I played Parasite Eve as a child, I feel like I'd be a different person.
It's so funny to think
Yeah,
back, like, yeah, what games missed you that you're like,
yeah.
damn, this would have been it. Because I was just too focused on playing Pokemon and then evolved into like Halo and Mass Effect and Fallout and stuff. It's just so funny. There's just a completely different path that you take. But like you were saying, like art finds you when it finds you. So who knows? With your
It,
maybe with your magical aether powers, you'll start talking about Parasite Eve, and they'll be like remaster of Parasite Eve coming out next
you
year.
know, that feels very that feels like it would be one of the ones that would happen for
It
some
would, yeah.
reason. Yeah, it is. I mean, because you usually the in joke about our show is that we like have a disturbing track record of talking about stuff and then it like comes out or gets a
Hmm.
remaster. And most of the time it's because like there's interest in a thing and then it gets a remaster and we
Hmm.
were also interested in it and it times up. But like every now and then it is kind of unnerving.
Yeah, like the
Um
Portal one, right? That's
Portal,
the big
yes,
one.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Portal one. That's the one that scared me a little bit. And yeah, if
Yeah.
Parasite Eve comes out, I'll take full credit for that.
Yeah, you should at that
Yeah,
point. That'd be
yeah.
crazy. But yeah, I feel like we could talk about this forever. But to wrap up, like Res is a very good game. Go play it. It's available everywhere. I think at most it's like $20 on PlayStation.
Yeah, I think
Um,
less even. And yeah, the modern port has like the Area X, which is like a VR. But I think
yeah,
you can play it without a
I think you
VR
can.
helmet.
It's apparently based off of what Tatsuya was saying or Tetsuya was saying. It's the spiritual third game because he did say that
Oh yeah,
what
there
was it?
is another is like Child of Eden or something.
Child of Eden, yeah, but that's a Ubisoft game, so like who knows how, how I don't know what era of Ubisoft it was because at one point Ubisoft was fine, but now I'm like you guys are poison to me if I see your name on something.
If like
Uh
Ubisoft and EA are always kind of like tug of war
dude.
of who is worse.
Yeah. I was
But
just
there
like
yeah, there was an era, like, I mean, similar to EA, like, EA had that period in the late 2000s where they
mhm,
invested a lot of money in all this new IP of, like, Mass Effect, Dead
yep.
Space, Mirror's Edge, and then Ubisoft had it like, because they did Child of Light and stuff, like,
Mhm.
did they do Brothers as well, or no, Valiant Hearts is what I'm
Yeah.
thinking of. They had, like, a period in the early 2010s where they were, like, greenlighting a lot of smaller projects, but
And
yeah.
then they had like the good like, you know, like the Rainbow Six story games and stuff like that. Like they had good games that they were publishing and then all of a sudden I was like, all right, so they're just the Assassin's Creed dev or publisher
Yeah.
now. Like there's nothing else you guys do.
It's like when Konami in like 2014, they just said like, "We're no longer making any games. We're only doing gambling.
Oh
Goodbye."
my
And that was
god.
the case for 10 years,
Yeah, at
like
least they
up
said
until
it though.
recently.
Like
I actually do appreciate like they weren't like, usually a corporation would be like, "We're trying to innovate ways of
mhm.
excellence," and then they do that. I
No,
appreciate
they're
like, you know what? there's more money in gambling, so we're just gonna do that. And it's like, on some level, I respect the
But at least let
honesty.
somebody else make a Castlevania or something, like, for the
Well,
love of God.
that's the thing, and again, going back to, like, the importance of the indie scene is, like,
Mhm.
when Nintendo and Konami decided that they weren't gonna make Metroid, and it's kind of wild to think now because there's so like, Metroidvania is, like, a
Mhm.
genre people are almost sick of at this point, despite their popularity.
Mhm.
But, like, yeah, like, the 2010s up until, like, I don't know, the latter part of that decade, like, it was Metroid Other M and I think Lords of Shadow and then nothing.
Yeah,
And
that's
and both of those games were also not Metroidvania. So, like,
mhm.
then you get this wave of stuff like Hollow Knight and games that are kind of picking up the baton. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
guess for a nice bow around everything, like, even though the Dreamcast is over, like, other people have carried on its creative legacy.
And
So
it
it's nice
feels
to
like
see that.
more and more will be coming too, as, like,
Yeah.
because, like, we're Dreamcast age people, and
Can we use that instead of millennial? Can we just say, like,
yeah,
I'm a
I'm a
Dreamcasty? Yeah.
I'm a Dreamcast kid, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm of Dreamcast age.
Or just I'm of Dreamcast.
I'm of Dreamcast is great.
Yeah.
Um, but those, like, they're breaking in. They have their indies. They're getting more and more
Yeah.
power
I mean,
within the
last year was
games
a
world.
Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, which was, like, straight up just
Yeah,
Jet Set Radio again,
and
but
finally one that I've
good.
heard is good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, one that's actually good.
yeah.
But no, I think you're totally right.
It's exciting to watch, and if you ever want to talk more about Dreamcast in general, I can do that. I
We're Discord friends now. You can at me at any time, and I'll be
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, Skies of Arcadia is pretty cool. I like how
I
they're already
know.
friends when the
I
plot
need what I'm
starts."
going to talk to you about. Look, I bought the voucher system on Nintendo. I gave this advice on a free roam episode, so I need to correct it because they fucking changed it. My advice was I bought the Nintendo voucher because it's just like the most efficient way of buying Nintendo games, and I had about a month left to use it, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll get Pokemon Legends ZA on the Switch and then do the $10 upgrade, which was a thing, but they removed Pokemon Legends ZA Nintendo Switch version, so you can no longer do that to save yourself some money.
Oh no.
But what I did, because of you guys, so I blame you,
Okay.
is I got Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Oh fuck yeah.
Yeah, so I will be messaging you that because
You know what?
I was reviewing a bunch of stuff, and somebody said there's a reason. All it was a comment that said there's a reason this game is recommended to Persona fans. I was like, done.
Xenoblade Chronicles X feels so much to me like Phantasy Star Online.
Oh
So that's
shit,
another
another
Dreamcast connection
Dreamcast.
for you.
Yeah,
Yeah. Have you played any other Xenoblade games?
no, I've been aware of them, but I have not
X is
pulled the
actually
trigger.
X is weirdly like a standalone.
That's why I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's like a overall all the Xenoblade games are like single player MMOs in
Mhm.
structure.
Oh
And
right. Yeah.
Chronicles X is more overtly sci-fi. So you like have a
Mhm.
mech and you have all this
Yeah, you can like
sci-fi
customize the
stuff.
mech and stuff is what I was
Yeah.
reading, and I was like, okay, this sounds like young Eric trying to play
Oh
Armored
shit.
Core kind of
Now
thing.
now I want to play Xenoblade Chronicles X. Well,
Uh,
it's a good thing I have it.
yeah, there you go. I apologize. Get you sucked into that,
No,
but
it's okay.
I want to thank you so much for coming on. This was so
Oh,
much
this is a
fun.
blast. Yeah, I
Yeah,
actually forgot we were recording and that it's been an
yeah,
hour. So
same. Yeah.
always a
At
good
one point, I
sign.
was like, we're still talking and it's recording, and we're just talking about the Dreamcast, and I was like, this
Yeah.
was gonna happen. Uh,
Yeah.
this is a reason. I was like, Dreamcast game? Yes, yes, we can talk about a
Yeah,
Dreamcast
I'm
game that I
really
haven't
happy you
played.
liked Res. And yeah, I think for those listening who have no like you can kind of get yeah, like Eric said, you can get the vibe of the whole console just from Res. You can kind of
Mm-hmm.
see like what was this era of video games interested in. There's something about the early 2000s where it was like everyone thought that was the definitive future. I love when
Right.
like old eras think they're the future, and
Right.
that kind of defines the look
Oh
of
my
Res to
God,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you guys were still a ways away because those jumps that were happening are crazy. And now it's like nothing happens, right?
And
Like,
and any animation that considered dial-up magic is, like,
yeah,
so innocent to me. I love
yes.
I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it does really feel like Res feels like the spirit. It's like, and it's funny because I was playing it and I didn't look up what year it came out until I finished. And I was like, oh, this must have been an early game because this feels like everything that the Dreamcast was going to become. And it's like, nope, it was one of the later ones, and
It
it's
was the
because
swan song. Yeah.
it was like the idea came out in the mid 90s before the Dreamcast was even a thing. So it's like, they knew where they were going. This game just
Yes.
took a while to get there, and I think that's so cool.
Well, Shenmue 3 bonus whenever you're ready, just at me in the Discord.
Yeah, oh my god. If I have not played a Shenmue game like all the way through because they're just like monstrous.
Well,
but
yeah, for this show, they are probably the opposite of what you need, but
yeah,
they exist. I mean, I actually think Rez and Shenmue collectively are like, you don't even need to read about the history of Dreamcast. You got it all in those two games.
No, that does feel. Yeah, Shenmue is crazy. I've watched a playthrough of it, and I'm like, "What the fuck is this?"
I love it, but it's definitely not for everyone.
Yeah,
And arguably for no one, but that's why I love it.
yeah. I mean, it's fun to play games where you're like you guys got me on Tokimeki Memorial and playing that, and I was like a fiend for it for a couple months, and I was like, this is everything. This is everything that I like
Well, that's
in
right,
the
'cause
social
it's like
aspects of games. And I was like, this is crazy that they in like 1995 just did it. Like,
yeah. I mean, a game like Tokimeki Memorial, you play that and you're like, oh, this is the skeleton of Persona, of Mass Effect, of like any game with a character relationship meter, Stardew Valley. But then you play a game like Shenmue and it's like they were doing all this. Like, it's so funny to think of Shenmue because like, and I'll let you go soon, I promise.
No, you're
but
fine.
like,
I'm good. I have nothing scheduled today.
the way the way we pitch games now is like it's like a Metroidvania with this mechanic. And I think that's fine. I think it's like, especially because of discoverability, I think having a
Yeah.
very easy to understand pitch using established terms makes sense.
Yep.
But what's so fascinating about Shenmue is like it was an open world game before open world games existed. It was like a life sim where you individually dial the numbers on the phone with your thumb
Or
and like
or randomly race like
yeah,
forklifts. Like,
yes, you have to get a part-time job and it's not fun and it feels
no.
like a part-time job. And I love it feels like you know, it just feels like a literalization of everything that existed in that world. And in some ways it just feels very unfiltered in a way that it's
Yeah.
like on one hand you have a Tokimeki Memorial where it's like they nailed the formula of this type of game and then it would eventually become the foundation for everything else. And Shenmue like fell on its face trying to be a new blueprint, but still eventually became one.
Yeah,
I think both examples are really fascinating.
it's finding the pieces that worked and being like, okay,
Yeah.
now we have the capabilities of like, this was a good idea. They just didn't have the ability back then. Now we have the ability. So like, let's do it. And it's crazy. Like, yeah, I could talk about stuff like that for hours. Like it's so good. But I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yes.
This was so much fun. I
This
would
is
love to
awesome.
have you back sometime next year, or if you ever have something to talk about randomly. I do record like every week just myself. So if you ever have something you need to just get out. I know you guys record every single week, so I'm sure that doesn't really happen to you too much.
Every now and then, I mean, usually it's like a news event or something, or
Mhm.
like if there's a really exciting announcement, Brendan will be like, "Do you want to record something right now?"
Yeah.
That happened a lot more during lockdown because you know we were
Right.
both like ready to go at any time.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's like, oh, I actually have plans now. So
yeah, I have a life outside of just talking on a mic. Yeah. Believe it or not, people that are listening, we don't just talk on a mic all the time. It's, we actually do have a life outside of this and we actually play games outside of the shows that we do.
I go to bed, open my eyes, I play Dreamcast, I talk into a
Yeah.
mic, I go back to bed. My friend Sadie, who's a great artist, she made this sign that's like an open close sign you can reverse, but it just
Oh,
says
nice.
recording a podcast, listening to a podcast.
Yep.
You can flip like which one you're doing.
That's me for sure.
That's you.
Yeah,
Yes.
all the time. And a lot of it being your guys' stuff. If you want to plug your things again, that would be great.
Oh shucks. Well, yeah, the podcast is Into the Aether. It's the AETHER Into the Aether. And our art, which is done by Scott Wilkinson, is a great artist, is like a whale in space. I bring that
I
up
like
because
that.
there
Describing
are
the actual look of it. Yeah.
yeah, cool. Because there's a couple other Into the Aethers that are not us. So if you're like, why is
Oh.
this show suddenly about cryptocurrency? That's not
Oh.
us.
Oh,
It's
my
the
God.
space whale one. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
I also have a YouTube channel called Memory Card Manuscript where I make short essays about games that I like, and that's updated less frequently, but I update that like every few months, basically.
Yeah, and
So
it's
if
good.
you want, thank you. Yeah, if you want a more like scripted version of my thoughts, that exists there.
Yeah. What do you have any plans for your next video for that?
Yeah, I'm actually working on. Finally, I'm doing a Chrono Cross video,
Ooh,
which I'm
nice.
excited to do. That's another kind of weird. Over, I am learning after talking about Res with you that I'm drawn to games that are like maybe a little too ambitious and kind of
Hmm.
mess up in the process. But I
Or
love that.
as you called them in your Dreamcast episode, the ambitious disasters.
Yes, beautiful, ambitious disasters.
Yeah.
The good version of bad.
Yeah,
See,
exactly.
that's next for
Version
me.
of that.
But
Yeah.
this is awesome. I really had a great time with you.
Yeah.
Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, of course. And definitely all that stuff will be in the show notes. If it's your first time listening, would love you to leave a review on how you enjoyed the episode, and maybe follow on your platform of choice, whether it's YouTube or Apple or Spotify or one of the many other podcast players out there. If you're returning, feel free to share it around, helps the show grow. And if you want to get in touch with me, feel free to join the Discord. It's the corner of the internet Discord. That stuff will be in the show notes. Or you can just go check out the rest of the network stuff, which is cody.pika.page, where we have 70% complete and more coming. So that's very exciting. And take care on your way. Like when you first jumped in and started talking, I was like, holy shit, it's like I'm listening to the
Yeah.
show.